Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Brian E. Roach.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground video podcast. My name is Brian E. Roach. I am the host who doesn't like toast. I am the host who thinks the refs stink because they stink. And we haven't done a video podcast in a while. I thought, hey, let's go ahead and do one. Why? Well, I have just finished off an article that should be out in the next couple days talking about the upcoming remainder of the season. And, you know, I thought it was worthwhile to take a look at who's coming up, you know, and how tough these opponents actually may or may not be. Where are the potential stumbling blocks for the Steelers, if there in fact are any? But before we get started, we have a new sponsor here, which is the NFL Photoshop. And it's pretty cool. I went on the site the other day, took a look around. There are a lot of really great pictures. There's some pictures with James Harrison with the Rooney, the DMR flag, some pictures with Ben with the DMR flag. But you can also just get some really cool game day photos and other things. So if you're a fan of the Steelers and you like to get some photos, you can go over to steelcityunderground.com/photos. And right there is a link to the team's official online photo store. You'll, again, as I said, find the largest selection of premium quality photo, canvas, and metal prints. And if you've not done the canvas stuff, I have a Jerome Bettis canvas print over here of the Urlacher hit. And it's very cool. It's really nice. It looks like a painting, but it's not. And they add new photos every week. And, of course, as with all our sponsors, the great thing is if you go over there and you use a specific code, in this case, Steel City, you'll get extra money off. In this case, 25% off your order. So check out the NFL Photo Store by going to steelcityunderground.com/photos. Click on that link, take you right to it. You can find a bunch of Steelers photos, and it'll be pretty cool. So, that being said, let's talk about the schedule. So, the Steelers have 6 games left. Right now, 8-2, 6 games left. If they sweep, 14-2. They have control of their own destiny. If they sweep the rest of this season, they will be the number 1 seed. They'll have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. How likely is that, though? You know, the remainder of the schedule has its quirks. We've got 3 8:30 games, starting with Sunday against the Packers, then a Monday night game, then another Sunday night game. We got 2 4:30 games. We got a 1 o'clock game. They play on Christmas. They play on New Year's. The nice thing is, out of the last 6 games, 4 of them are at home, 2 of them are on the road. So, really, when you think about it, the schedule itself actually sets up pretty well for us. 4 home games versus 2 road games, even though we have one of the best road records in the league this year. Surprising as that may seem to some, we've lost 1 road game, and that was in Chicago. We've lost 1 home game, Jacksonville. So, you know, the Steelers are getting by in some of these games, but, you know, we saw signs of life in the Titans game. So who do we got coming up next? Well, it's the Packers. Now, this is not the Packers that we thought we were going to get when the schedule was first put out and the season opened. This is an Aaron Rodgers-less Packers team. Brett Hundley, or as I like to call him, Todd Hundley. I have no idea why I did that the other day. But Brett Hundley is the quarterback of the Packers. Now, the season started off pretty good for the Packers when you think about it. They were 4-1 at one point. They looked like they were going to be the cream of the crop in the NFC, maybe. They had walloped on Seattle. They beat the Cowboys again. They were just moving straight ahead. It looked like it was going to be a pretty good season, and then Aaron Rodgers breaks his collarbone. And since then, it hasn't been quite so rosy for the Packers. They did manage to beat the Bears, or I guess you could really say John Fox beat the Bears by making that, contending that call and on replay, getting it overturned and costing his team a touchdown and the ball. But they lost to the Saints. They lost to the Lions. Since Todd Hundley's gone in. it's worthwhile taking a look at just how ineffectual Brett Hundley has been. Against the Vikings, 18 of 33, his passer rating 39.6, 1 TD, 3 ints. Against the Saints, he was 12 of 25, 39.9 passer rating, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Against the Lions, 26-38, 86 passer rating, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So it's an improvement. And against the Bears, he had his best outing so far of the year, 18 of 25, 110.8 passer rating, with 1 touchdown, no ints. Then there was last week against the Baltimore Ravens, went 21 of 36, 3 interceptions, 43.6 passer rating. So let's break this down real simple. First of all, he's been sacked 17 times in the last 5 games. 17 times in 5 games. That's a huge number of sacks. The Packers are without both of their starting tackles, definitely without one of them that are injured. The offensive line is not good. So that benefits us. It's a young quarterback who clearly isn't adapted to the league yet. That benefits us. He tends to throw interceptions. He's thrown 7 in the last 5 games. He tends not to throw touchdowns, only 2 in the last 5 games. I don't know. You can start preaching that mantra of how the Steelers will play down to bad teams. But let's go back to it for the most part this year. They played a game that they easily could have won against the Bears in Chicago. It's a tough place for them to play. All road games can be tough. But, they did lose the game. They got walloped in a 5-interception game by the Jaguars. And the Jaguars are not a bad team. We're going to talk about them in a little bit, but they're not a bad team. That defense is no joke, okay? So you can kind of forgive that loss. They barely beat the Colts. I get it. But the Packers just aren't really, I guess they're not an awful team. They're just not a good team right now. And it's for one reason. They're missing key components. I don't think that Brett Hundley is going to come in here and pull a Ryan Mallett or a Glennon or any of those other guys who have kind of had success against the Steelers. The Steelers looked like they were keyed in, last week. They're not great at running the ball. They're not great at throwing the ball. And, it's defensive-wise, looks like they have a solid rush defense. In fact, they're number 11 in the league. But when we look at who they have actually faced, Ezekiel Elliott, Jerick McKinnon, Mark Ingram, Amir Abdullah, Jordan Howard twice, Chris Carson, Devontae Freeman, and Joe Mixon. Those are the guys that they have faced to become the 11th ranked rushing defense. Ingram and Elliott both torched them for over 100 yards. Devontae Freeman had 86. When you take those 3 guys out of the list, those are the top 3 running backs they've probably faced. The rest of them are second-tier running backs. And guess what? Le'Veon Bell is not a second-tier running back. This is a game that the Steelers should have no difficulty winning. I hear you, bad performances against bad teams, but if they can go ahead and feed Le'Veon Bell the ball, open up things, hit a couple passes to Antonio Brown, hit a couple passes to Juju, maybe hit a couple passes to Martavis, it's a game they should win. They should walk out of Heinz Field Sunday night 9-2. Next up is the Bengals. This is, in my opinion, a tricky game. Not because the Bengals are any good. I hesitate to say they stink. They're a talent-laden team, but they have no direction. If their head coach is still employed at the end of the year, I'll be stunned. It is you want to talk about an underachieving team. The Bengals are an underachieving team. All right. The Bengals defense looks pretty good. Passing, they're number 7. Not so good against rush, 27th. Overall, 12th in the league. Their offense is dead last, 32nd in the league. They have the worst rushing offense. They have the 29th passing offense. They can't score. That's been the problem all year long for the Bengals. They're not able to score. Now, this is going to be a Monday night game. Ben likes playing on Monday night. The Steelers like playing on Monday night. They've kind of owned the Bengals over the last 5 games, or the last 5 straight games, and out of the 8 of the last 9, they've won 8 of the last 9. If you go back to all the way to 210, they're 13-3 against the Bengals. They've owned the Bengals, okay? And we all know Ben's the governor of Ohio. He owns the Ohio teams. So this year, the last time they played in Pittsburgh, it was the Le'Veon Bell show. Again, there's no reason not to expect them to do the same thing. This is the time of year where they should start feeding the beast, and Le'Veon Bell should be getting the ball repeatedly at this point. The Bengals' rush defense, as I said, isn't very good. The pass defense sort of looks solid. And here's why I say sort of. Who have they played? Who have the Bengals played? Well, they played Aaron Rodgers, and he lit them up for 313 yards and 3 TDs. Ben was 14-24. He had 2 TDs against them. Beyond that, here's who they played. Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson in his first start, so he was not yet used to the offense. Deshaun Kaiser, Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett, Blake Bortles, and Brock Osweiler. Yeah, they played Marcus Mariota too, and he's a step above those guys, but he's probably still a step below Ben and Aaron Rodgers. In other words, they haven't played anybody. I mean, Blake Bortles, Marcus Mariota, this is not a huge, tremendous threat in the passing offense, which is part of why they're the number 7 passing defense in the league. They haven't played anyone. And I think this is a theme as we start to go through some of this stuff. So if you haven't played a lot of high-caliber offenses, the last time the Steelers were there, they kind of dominated you. It is in Cincinnati. It potentially is a game where they could stumble. There is no question that the Bengals have talent. Where they lack talent is on the offensive line. That makes it almost impossible for them to run the ball, hence the worst rushing defense or rushing offense. It also makes it very difficult for them to throw the ball because Andy Dalton's constantly looking up at the sky. So if they don't invest in offensive linemen in this year's draft, obviously they're not paying attention to what's wrong with their team right now. I can't see the Steelers dropping this game. I just can't. I think they go to 10-2. That brings us back home where we have the Ravens. Now, quite surprisingly, we beat the Ravens in Baltimore, and we did it pretty easily. It was up until, I guess, the Titans game, or maybe the Chiefs game, it was the statement game of the year. It's the best game they had played up to that point. It wasn't really as close as what it seemed. It was an easily won game. But this is the Ravens. Number 2 passing defense, but the 26th rushing defense. Now, that's kind of very un-Ravens-like. They usually have a very stout running defense. Not so much this year. Let's talk about the passing offense. Worst in the league. Rushing offense, 14th. Overall offense, they're 1 spot ahead of the Bengals, who are the worst. How the AFC North has fallen. In the bottom 3 offenses in the league, the Browns, the Bengals, well, in the bottom 4, excuse me, because Browns are actually 28. So you got 28 the Browns, 30 is the 29 is the Browns. See what happens when I don't have notes. 29 is the Browns. Somebody else is at 30. I don't remember who, and I'm not going to look it up. 31, that's the Ravens. 32, yikes, the Bengals. Anyway, so they're going to play the Baltimore Ravens. They're playing them in Pittsburgh. And again, last time, pretty handily, we won. As I was talking about it, they have the number 2 passing defense. Well, just like with the Bengals and their number 7 passing defense, who have the Ravens played? Who have they played? Well, they played us. They played Ben. Other than that, what top quarterbacks have the Ravens faced? Marcus Mariota. Now, he put up similar numbers to Ben. Ben was, I think, 18 of 30, 216, a TD and an int. Mariota was 19 of 28 for 218 with 2 TDs and 1 interception. Who else did they play? Let's. This is just a shining example of quarterback play here. Andy Dalton, Deshaun Kaiser, Brett Hundley, Case Keenum, Blake Bortles, who, by the way, torched them for 244 yards and 4 TDs, E.J. Manuel, who was filling in for Derek Carr, who was hurt at the time, Mitch Trubisky, and the oh-so-terrifying Matt Moore of the Dolphins. that's kind of a good reason why you might be the number 2 passing defense in the league. It's an overrated defense, folks. The Ravens are overrated on defense. They haven't played anybody that makes you say, geez, that's impressive that they've got that ranking. I don't think the Steelers are going to have any problems with the Ravens in Pittsburgh. Their offense is horrific. Joe Flacco has become the quarterback probably that we always thought he was. He's not elite. He's mediocre at best. Their rushing attack is okay, but if they try and do what they tried to do against the Steelers the last time around, which was run everything up the middle in between the tackles, they went outside in the first quarter of the last game, and they got great yardage, and then they stopped doing it and said, no, we're going to dominate you. We're going to go up the middle. Your offensive line stinks. You're not going to go up the middle against the Steelers. And they didn't. If they continue on that path, it's not even going to be a question. The Steelers are going to win this game. The Ravens aren't going to be able to run. They're not going to be able to throw. I see the Steelers coming out of this with another win and being 11-2. Then we get to the next game. Now, this is the game everybody's talking about. This is the game everybody's worried about. This is the game that is going to decide the season that they have. The Patriots come into Heinz Field, and at that point in time, it's highly likely that they will both be 11-2 teams. Okay. I can't even imagine how hyped this game is going to be. It's going to be a big deal. This game is going to be huge. And people are still exceptionally enamored of the Patriots. But let me, again, tell you something. This is not, and Joe Kuzma has written a really nice article about this on the site. This is absolutely 100% not the Patriots team that we're used to. Let's talk about the offense first. The numbers look pretty good. They're the number 1 passing offense in the league, number 6 rushing offense in the league, number 2 offense overall. Great. Fantastic. That's the Patriots we all know and love, right? Or hate, because I hate them. But let's flip that over. On the defensive side, they are dead last, 32nd in the league. 32nd against passing, 24th against rushing. Their defense is a mess. And I know that the talking heads out there are talking about how, the Patriots have got it all together. They're not allowing any scores. They played the Raiders, who are a hot mess right now, and gave up 8 points. Okay. They played them in Mexico City. The Raiders had to travel. So did the Patriots, admittedly. But this is not a team that has been dominant all year long. The Raiders are not the team that we thought they were going to be. They've got problems. It's a middle-of-the-road team. They only gave up 8 points. All right, they held the Broncos to 16 points. The Brock Osweiler-led Broncos, who, by the way, is getting benched, I've heard, for Paxton Lynch. That ought to be a nice mess of a look. So, great. But they did hold the Falcons down. I'll give them that. But again, the Falcons have been completely up and down this year as well. This is the same team that almost lost to the Jets. They only managed to, they barely managed to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a field goal kicker who could kick, they would have won that game. They almost lost at home to a rookie quarterback in his second game when Deshaun Watson went in and, essentially took them to the brink, barely losing in the last second. In New England, a rookie quarterback in his second start of his career almost beat them. And the Jets would have won the first game they had with if the refs didn't stink. They stink. Decided that there was some unknown rule that no one ever heard of that said that Austin Seferian-Jenkins' touchdown was a fumble instead. Stupid. In no way, shape, or form should that have happened. But it did, and the Patriots got the upside of it. So they're 11-2. And they're going to come into Heinz Field. Now, let's remember last year. I was at that game last year where the Landry Jones-led Steelers really didn't get blown out by the Patriots, who had a better defense last year than they have this year, who were probably a little better even than they are this year on offense, because, again, those offensive numbers can be skewed. When you go back and look at their record and look at the teams that they've played, yes, they have put up points, but not against the best defenses, and they have had troubles with some of the better defenses. And they haven't played the very best defenses either. So I'm not scared of this Patriots team. Not the way I was in the past. And the way that the Steelers defense is playing, this is not the same team. I don't think the secondary can hold up if they can't get to Brady. I think a big part of this is going to be getting Tom Brady on his butt in this game when it comes up. And if they can do that, Brady will throw some picks. He will be flustered as best as you can fluster Tom Brady, but he's also not going to see the same kinds of Steelers defenses that he's seen in years past. They're not going to just play zone and let these guys run open. They've been playing man coverage. They have been mixing things up. It's a defense that I think can give the Patriots all they need. And the Steelers should win this game. And they should be able to come out of this game 12-2. And that would give them a full game's lead over the Patriots and, surprisingly, over the Jaguars. Okay, that brings us to Christmas. Christmas, we go to Houston, and early in the year, when Watson was lighting things up and making everybody go crazy that he was going to be the Rookie of the Year at quarterback, this looked like it was going to be an interesting game. It looked like it was going to be a huge game. Playoff seeding was going to be on the line. The Texans were going to win that division. It was going to be a big deal. Then Deshaun Watson blew out his knee. Not so much anymore. Am I afraid of Tom Savage? Are you afraid of Tom Savage? If you are, you should not be. Here's what Tom Savage has done. 14 points against the Colts, 7 points against the Rams. He came back and had a little bit of life against the Cardinals. And then, it's not, you're not scared. You're just not scared of Tom Savage. They have weapons, DeAndre Hopkins, D'Onta Foreman, and, they've got some tools, but it's just not a team that scares you, and they can't score now that they don't have Deshaun Watson running this show. On the defensive side, they got Jadeveon Clowney, but they lost T.J. Watt for the year. Or not T.J. Cut my tongue out. Go back. Reverse. Say that again. J.J. Watt for the year. Nobody's lost T.J. Watt for the year. Don't say that. It's never going to happen. Okay, forget it. J.J. Watt. They lost J.J. Watt for the year. So it's not the same defense. This is not a contest that has the same shine that it once did. But I'm more worried about this game than I am the Patriots game, and I'll tell you why. Because it's on Christmas Day, and it's in Houston. That means, and it's following what I expect to be an emotional victory against the Patriots. This is a potential letdown game. They're going to be away from home on a holiday. This game concerns me a little bit, and it is going to be an important game still that they need to be focused for, and they need to be, zoned in on. Because as we're going to see when we start talking about the very last game of the year, Cleveland, they're not going to have a lot of wiggle room in this season. They really kind of do probably need to win out to get that number one seed. So I think probably if Watson was still playing, and considering everything else, I would have leaned toward the Texans. But without him, I cannot pick Tom Savage to beat the Steelers. I just can't. So I think that they go to 13-2. And that brings us to Cleveland. Now, when I first did my schedule look at the very beginning of the year, broke it down into 4 quarters, I said that they would be 14-2. But I had them losing in Baltimore and losing to Cleveland in the last game in what I said would be the Landry Jones show because it wasn't going to matter. Well, it might matter. Cleveland will come in to Pittsburgh last game of the year. I hate that kind of game. Cleveland's defense is not a bad defense. 15 passing, 6 rushing. Overall, they're the 9th best defense in the league. And they have a solid defensive line. and Myles Garrett will finally get his chance to try and sack Ben Roethlisberger if he plays in this game. I don't like the scenario the way I think it leads up. It's happened before where we needed that last win to secure seeding. Ben plays and gets hurt. That has happened in the past. I would be much happier if the Jaguars dropped a game and the Patriots, I don't care about it. As long as we've beaten the Patriots, I don't care about them. But we need the Jaguars to lose another game. That gives us a cushion. I would prefer that this was the Landry Jones show. But I'm going to assume it's not. If it's not, I think we win. If this is the Landry Jones and the backup boys show, we probably lose this game. But if we have to play this game to win, I think we will win, and it's 14-2. Well, here's the reason that I think we could have to play this game to win. We own the tiebreaker against the Patriots. So even if we were to lose this game and be tied with the Patriots at 13-3 at the end of the season, we own that tiebreaker. We do not own the tiebreaker against the Jaguars. The Steelers lost to the Jaguars and therefore would not have the head-to-head tiebreaker. And the Jags' schedule is not fraught with peril for them, okay? They have at the Cardinals, which the Cardinals have not been a good team this year. You can assume the Jaguars might win that game. They've got the Colts in Jacksonville, probably a win. They've got the Seahawks. If that was in Seattle, maybe, but it's in Jacksonville. I feel like Jaguars will probably win that game. Then the Texans. Again, who's scared of Tom Savage? Not me, probably not the Jaguars. And then the 49ers, and then they have the Titans to close out the year. That's the game that has the best chance, in my mind, to throw the Jaguars' season into a downward spiral. It's that Titans game. The Titans already beat them once this year, so they're familiar with these guys in the same division. They're rivals. If the Titans can beat them last game of the year, that's great for us. The problem is we're playing a 1 o'clock game. We're not going to know that. So I think we're still going to have to play this Browns game, in which case I think we're going to win. And I think we'll be 14-2. That's what I said at the beginning of the year. This is not how I expected us to get there, but I think we're going to get there. So, I know that we need to get the Patriots monkey off of these guys' back, right? The Steelers need to break the curse of the Patriots. And the only way they're going to do that is beat this team, okay? And I think that they can do that this year. I think this is a team that defensively is better than we thought they were going to be. I thought they would be better than they were last year. I didn't think they'd be this much better. There's a chance Joe Hayden is back for that Patriots game. If that's the case, that gives us help. Cody Sensabaugh played a nice game. We'll see how he plays the next couple games. Cam Sutton was just reactivated. That doesn't mean he's going to get a hat. It doesn't even mean he's going to be any help, but it's more bodies. And that gives us, I think, more depth and more potential in the secondary than we ever had last year with, Ross Cockrell and the group that we had. I talked about Artie Burns in the Good, Bad, and Ugly article I wrote, being a little up and down, and I'm worried that he has regressed this year, but he's still a really young player, and I still have a lot of faith in Artie Burns, and I think he's still going to be a solid, if not really good, corner. But he worries me a little bit because he's been very inconsistent this year, and he has some mental lapses that just don't make any sense. But that being said, if they can beat the Patriots in Pittsburgh, they're going to know they can beat the Patriots in Pittsburgh. And if the Patriots have to come back through again, I think that they will have the advantage because they'll have that victory under their belt to give them the confidence they need to go ahead and push on through. I'm more worried about them playing the Jaguars again than I am about them playing the Patriots again at this point because the Jaguars' defense is really good. It's really, really good. And we'll just have to see how this all pans out. So, again, this may seem like rose-colored glasses to people. Oh, he's a homer. He's saying we're going to go 6-0 over the last 6 games. But I think you can see there's a legitimate reason to think that we can. The teams that we're going to face, I think, specifically the Ravens, their defense, in my view, is overrated. It's not as good as their rankings are because they haven't played anybody. Same thing is true with the Bengals. You can't overrate the Pats' defense. It stinks. there is somewhat of a chance that their offense may not be as good as they appear. Remember, they get 6 games a year against ultra cushy opponents who flat out stink. The Dolphins, the Bills, and the Jets. Almost couldn't remember them. They're so bad. And they barely beat the Jets. They barely beat the Buccaneers. I know they're better than they were at those points in time, but I don't think this is the same Patriots boogeyman team that we once were worried about. So I think there's good reason to be optimistic. I'm optimistic, somewhat cautiously optimistic about the rest of this season. I think that we're on the right path, and barring anything catastrophic, I need wood to knock on, happening through injury or something else, hopefully nothing else like losing Marcus Gilbert for 4 games to a suspension occurs. I think the Steelers are in good shape to make a really strong run, not only at the number 1 seed, but at the Super Bowl. All right, everybody, until next time, Brian Roach, for you guys out there, it's chaos out there. Be kind. And we will talk to you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.